My guest is an actor, comedian, event host, auctioneer, and inspirational speaker. His name is Mark Christopher Lawrence. You've seen him in things like Terminator II, Hill Street Blues, Seinfeld, Malcolm in the Middle, K-Pax, The Pursuit of Happyness, and a ton of other projects. This was a very fun interview to do. We had some laughs, and I am happy that I can bring this to you. All right, Mark, thank you for joining me. It is a pleasure to be able to speak with you.
Pleasure is mine.
So I was going over your career, man, and I've seen you in a bunch of stuff. I actually went and dug up some of your older work that I hadn't seen just because it seemed interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I want to start at the beginning. You went to USC and we're on the debate team, right?
Yeah, I went to USC on a debate scholarship.
Why debate?
Um, my English teacher in high school got me involved in speech, and I did individual events. I did oral interpretation of literature, speech to entertain, stuff like that. And in 1984, I was most outstanding speaker in the nation.
That's awesome.
Took 4 events to the national tournament, won them all.
So you like to argue, or you can argue?
I don't like to argue. I hate arguing. But you know, it was just that part of my life was meant to be, because what happened was I didn't want to go to my high school. I wanted to go to a different high school. Mm-hmm. And my mother didn't want to jump through the hoops to get me to this other high school. She said, your brother went there, your sister went there, you can go there. And had I not, I wouldn't have ran into Mrs. Schilling, who got me involved in speech. And she also put me in my first play ever. And she connected me with a mentor who got me involved in stand-up comedy, and I'm doing what I do today directly because of Mrs. Schilling.
Hey, our paths seem to take us into interesting places.
Yeah.
Now I know after that, you did some time at the Los Angeles Theater in California.
The Los Angeles Theater Center, in its heyday, was one of the premier theaters in the country. They did a lot of groundbreaking work, and I was fortunate enough to do about 10 plays there. You know, my first audition, they gave me a union contract, and started working professionally. That was my first year in the Bachelor of Fine Arts acting program at USC, and my acting took a leap just from working with these pros.
What were some of the plays that you got to work on?
The first one was Antony and Cleopatra.
Okay.
Piece. And I did a thing called Minamata, which was Reza Abdo, the late Reza Abdo, Iranian sort of performance art director, did this huge piece that was incredible visually, sound. There was never a dry moment in the show. There was always something going on, either on the screen or on the stage or in the soundscape. Just epic play. People either loved it or hated it.
What was your favorite play?
Actually, my favorite play was down in San Diego. Fences, and probably Piano Lesson.
Okay.
2012, I did A Raisin in the Sun and Top Dog Underdog, and won the San Diego Critics Circle Outstanding Actor of the Year.
Awesome. Yeah, I know you've been in so much stuff that, like, even the hour that we have to do this is just going to barely scratch the surface. So
I was telling someone the other day that you look at IMDb and everything that I've done is not on there, because IMDb, I started before there was internet.
Yeah.
And some of the producers of some of the things that I did prior to internet, are gone. And so they never posted it. So there's a lot of stuff that I did that's not even there.
Now I know you have a passion for stand-up, not only doing it yourself, but organizing others.
Yeah.
There was a stand-up special. I tried to watch it on the one streaming service that I have. It was the Christian stand-up that you were doing.
Was it Clean Out of Compton? Was it that?
It might have been. I know you were a producer on it.
So it must have been pure comedy.
Yeah.
So that's basically a talk show.
Okay.
And so what I did was for PureFlix, I produced 6 episodes of a talk show with stand-up comedy headliners that nobody really knows. And so we did the interviews at a place that had something to do with their act, except one, because one of them we lost the location, ended up having to double up a location. And then we do some funny stuff between me and that person, and then we go and do their stand-up. I wanted to do the stand-up in either a church or a club, but the producer that PureFlix put on me, forced me to use the studio that they had already rented for something else. And some of the comics had never worked without an audience before, so it was odd. Like one of them kept walking out of the green screen. She's walking too close to the camera because she's just like dying to hear some laughter.
Right.
And then some of them didn't know how to pause after they land the joke so that we could sweeten it. So I think that portion of it didn't work. And if I had to do all over again, I would just fight for, doing it at a venue that has an audience.
Right. That makes sense. It works a lot better too, because then your audience at home also knows where to laugh.
Exactly. And I think the first one was excellent. The one with Mocha Rose came out really well. I mean, the interview part of it is hysterical once she doesn't cook. And so I taught her how to cook, a meal, and it was hysterical.
Yeah, my only issue with trying to watch it was the audio was out of sync with the video. So it looked like a bad dub. And yeah. I hung in there for about 15 minutes, but it was just driving me nuts too. Yeah. So, but I know your first job in TV, other than commercials and stuff like that, was on Hill Street Blues.
Yes.
What was that like? Because it was an iconic TV show.
Yeah, it changed the way we watch TV. All of the cop shows today are patterned after Hill Street Blues. It really did. It was gritty. I was so excited to do it because I loved the show. And when I auditioned, it was my first audition. I get back home, it's on the machine before I even get back home that I got the job. So for the next year, I'd race home and check my machine and realize, oh, I'm not getting them all. And so that was the best thing that could ever happen to me, because now I do the audition. I'm either going to get it or I'm not. I put my best foot forward and let it go. But working on that show was for me, the most exciting thing ever at that point.
I can imagine. Like
Daniel Fisher-Bonsley took me around and introduced me to everybody. They were shooting downtown LA, sort of 6th and Crocker, which was really a seedy area at the time. And it was perfect for Hill Street Blues. It was perfect.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, to be part of such an iconic show has got to be a nice little feather in your cap, and the long plumage that is there already.
Yeah. I think the other show that I think changed the way we watch movies was Terminator II, which was another iconic piece.
Well, I know there's an interesting story with Terminator 2 because you were actually in a movie called The Glass House in 1990, but that led.
A play.
Oh, you were in The Glass House, which is a play. I'm sorry, in 1990, and that actually led to Terminator 2. How did that happen?
I don't know how that came about. I think a publicist wrote that bio for something, and that's not the way that happened.
Well, how did it happen?
So Terminator 2, I had an agent send me out for the job. They wouldn't let you take the script. They wouldn't let you even have the sides that you were going to read at the audition. If you wanted to see it before you got there, you had to go early or go the day before and read the material and get familiar with it, and then come back for your audition. And that's what I did. I went the day before. So it was at a period where things had slowed down for me drastically. I was like hitting boom, boom every month, getting something. And then all of a sudden I had a little drought, and I auditioned for Terminator 2 at about a month into this drought, and nothing happened. And a couple of months later, I'm looking through the paper going, I got to find something else to do. Maybe I should go back and go to law school. So I'm looking through the paper and I see this thing says, learn to deal cards. And I always say that God puts you where he wants you. And so I see this thing, learn to deal cards. You can audit the class. It's $499. If you like the class, pay the $499, and we'll teach you to play cards and place you in Monaco, Reno, Laughlin, Las Vegas, all these places. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go check that out. So I go check it out, and before the first break, it was gonna be a break at 10 o'clock in the morning, some suits came in and shut the class down. They were laundering money through this class.
Oh man.
And so I go home and I'm like, just dejected. And then that same day, I get a call, or a couple of days later, I get a call from the costumer from Terminator II. So now it's been 3 months since I've had a job, and I'm panicking. And so I get that call, and she says, I need your sizes. And I was like, for what? And she says, Terminator II. I was like, oh, okay. So I give her the sizes, and I called my agent. I said, hey, I just got a call from the wardrobe person from Terminator 2. They said, yeah, you booked the job. We're on the phone with them right now. And that's how it happened. Another little known fact about Terminator 2 is the video footage of Rodney King getting his beaten. In the background, you see these big giant lights.
Yeah.
And those are from the set of Terminator 2.
Yeah, I actually knew that one. I was debating on whether or not I should bring that up during the interview, just because it is a rough bit of history, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the lesser known stuff when it comes to movies and stuff like that.
Exactly. I'm just saying, stay out of those Hondas. They go real fast, apparently.
Well, while we're talking about the 90s anyways, you were in a movie called, you know what? I'm not going to give you the name of the movie. I'm just going to give you the name of the character you played. Tone Deaf.
Fear of a Black Hat.
Now, I realized, so I was watching Fear of a Black Hat, and I realized that it was very similar to another movie.
CB4.
Yeah, and I was like, I wonder when they came out. Yeah, that's my feeling is Fear of a Black Hat is the better movie.
So here's the story. We shot a short film called The Trial of NWH, and Rusty used it to shop his writing. And Chris Rock's people saw it, brought him in for an interview, and they wanted him to write Chris's movie. And he says, well, the only way I'd be interested in writing is if I could direct it. And they said, well, what would you do? And so he told him, he says, I get rid of all this plot, make it a mockumentary, and rap Spinal Tap. They didn't hire him, hired Penelope Spears. And I was in Canada doing stand-up, and I get a call from Rusty saying, hey, ITC Entertainment Group wants to do the movie for Black Hat. When are you home? I said, I'll be home in about 18 days. He says, okay, we got to find somebody else to play Taste and Taste because they didn't like the guy that we had. So we have to do some auditions, but me and you are in. I was like, all right, cool. So we get back and we end up with Larry B. Scott, who was perfect.
Yeah.
And
it took me a minute to realize who he was too, right off the
Lamar.
bat. Yeah.
I think the main takeaway from it is that we ITC Entertainment Group did not want to say they spent $1 million on this movie. So the budget was officially $999.99. We probably spent $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Chris' movie had $10 million. Peter Bonners, who used to direct Murphy Brown, and he was also in it, curly-haired guy. Mm-hmm. So I auditioned for Murphy Brown, and he's asked me, what have I been working on? And I told him, I did this movie called Fear of a Black Hat. So a rap Spinal Tap. He goes, oh, he said, I think I might have saw that. He says, Penelope Spears directed. I said, no, that's the other one. I said, that one was CB4. He goes, oh yeah. He said, she called me up and said, hey, Peter, can you come and watch this film with me? I only have 2 scenes at work. He says, she's bawling her eyes out. He says, I go over there and watch it and go, hey, you got no scenes at work. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's a better movie.
I do too. I think Fear of a Black Hat is the better movie out of the two, and you guys beat him to the box office. You
No, they beat us to the box office.
No release dates
No.
for the movie, and then they're wrong on the internet.
No, they came out and we sat on the shelf for 2 years because they flopped. And the Chris Gorov, the president of ITC Entertainment Group, left his job, and so he was really the champion behind the movie. So we just sat there floundering while that movie was on screens. So then finally 2 years later, we get a call that they're going to put it out, but they only put it on 10 screens nationwide. But it stayed in the Village for 2 years in New York, and probably it's the film that I'm most recognized from. That and Chuck are probably the roles that people most recognize me from.
Well, I gotta ask, so like, if you pay attention to the background on Fear of a Black Hat, there is a lot of people who later became famous. Faison Love is in it. He's not in the background. He's the rival rap group. Yeah, Jam Boys. I could have sworn, and maybe I'm wrong, I could have sworn a very young Cedric the Entertainer had a brief cameo in it.
No, Ced's not in it.
Okay, because there's when you guys get bumped in the movie, when you guys get bumped from the or the timetable for the event that you guys are doing gets changed up. There's a guy that comes in that's got sunglasses on, and I was sitting there.
Doug McHenry.
Okay.
So Doug McHenry, I believe his company is called Elephant Walk. Doug is huge in the rap world. We were shocked that he wanted to do that part. It was him and his partner, his business partner, that came and said, this is the group, this is the lineup. Yeah.
Okay. And I gotta say too, the soundtrack, every song is a hit. Like I'm to the point now where I want to go see if I can track down the soundtrack and buy it, because like every song is a hit, even My Peanuts.
Yeah. My agent at the time, Claire, I think was probably in her late 60s, early 70s. And when we cut the music, I went to her office and gave her the temp track that we were using to do the music, and the song Booty Juice. And so I get a call from Gina, her assistant, going, "You've created a monster." She's walking around the office singing "My Booty Juice."
They stuck with me for a few days, so I get it. Now you had mentioned Chuck. I know, at least I think I know, because I've been wrong twice now. And somewhere my wife is like, "See, I've been telling you for 5 years." You auditioned supposedly for the role of Harry Tang for Chuck, but got Big Mike instead. What happened there?
So I go in, I audition. It's pilot season. I'm up for 5 pilots, Chuck being one of them. Chuck was guest star, possibly recurring. So I didn't spend any time working on it. I worked on all the other ones that were series regular roles, didn't book anything. And I booked a trip to Hawaii, and I get a call from my agent saying, "Hey, when is your trip?" I said, "I leave next Wednesday." And she goes, "Okay, so they want to offer you the role of Big Mike on Chuck." Big Mike wasn't in the script when I originally read the script, but Schwartz loved what I did at the audition and wrote the character for me. And they said, it's going to be, maybe a couple of days an episode, you won't work every episode, and you high and by kind of thing, you're Chuck's boss. I was like, okay, great. Halfway through the first season, I'm doing every episode. And I called my agent and said, "Hey, tell them I'm not coming back with this money." And so they eventually cut me a deal for the second season to be a series regular. They paid me more for the rest of the season. And it was great. Peter Roth, who was the head of Warner Bros. At the time, it was his decision to pay me more and make the deal.
Yeah, we learned in an earlier interview this month the difference between 5 and 6 episodes. So,
yeah.
Okay, I got one I absolutely love this. It's been a pain to try to find it on the internet again, but I saw it years ago. Sock Babies.
So there's a comic in Temecula. His Murrieta. His name is Martin Atrushi. He goes by Zeke Mahogany when with his filmmaking. But he calls me up one day. He says, "Hey, I got this idea for this film. Just wondered if you'd be interested in doing it." I was like, when he told me, I just started laughing. I was like, "Yes." There's another one that he did called Sword Trick. You should look that up. It's pretty funny too.
I will. Like I said, I've seen you in a bunch of stuff, and when the name clicked, I was like, wait a minute, I know him from all these movies. Why do I know him from something else? And I started doing my digging, and Sock Babies was on the list, and I was like, oh my God, I terrorized friends with that. I go by the name Odd, so like all things weird and internet related are in my wheelhouse. And when I found it, I was like, you got to see this. And I get messages back. What did I just watch? Why did you make me watch that? It's hilarious, though. It's great.
The funniest part of it to me is when the little kid gets pulled under the bed and let's go, save yourself. We can't help him.
So I recently watched K-Pax. I have a question about K-Pax.
Sure.
How many times did you guys rehearse the Jello scene? Because I swear you didn't even flinch when she threw it at you.
We never rehearsed with actual Jello. So we did the blocking for the camera, and then when it was time to get hit with the Jello, we just got hit with the Jello.
But like, I'm serious, you didn't even flinch. Like, you were just standing there like, yep, come on. Let's get this over with.
It was a fun day. That job came off of the back of the commercial strike. And I was doing a lot of commercials at the time. And then all of a sudden I was just not working at all from, I think it was like May through like October, November. And we get a call, we get a offer for K-Pax. It was just a straight offer. And so we said, yeah, of course. And it was just really a blessing to be in that film. So many talented people are in there. Mm-hmm. Peter Garrity was brilliant. Saul Williams was brilliant. It's just great work in that film.
Oh yeah, it's a very good film. And the thing is too, is like I've done work in mental health in the hospitals and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the attitude you have is just on par. It's right on point. It's like they don't pay me enough to be here and deal with this, but I'm here and I'm dealing with it. And then, like I said, the fact that you didn't even flinch when the Jello hit you, like I've seen that. I've seen like orderlies or BHTs get hit with everything, and they just stand there like stoic, like nothing.
One of my childhood youth pastors. We took a field trip to one of the facilities, and I saw my childhood youth pastor there. He was working there, and I had a conversation with him before we shot and talked to him about that scene. He says, man, you get all kinds of stuff thrown on you. He says after a while, it's just like, okay, this is part of the job. And so that's what I took into that scene, was that this is just part of the job. Okay.
Perfect.
The day I got hit with Jello. Thank God it wasn't something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, be glad it was only Jello.
Right.
All right, so you got a couple of projects that I don't know and I'm curious about. One of them is Romeo and Juliet, a COVID tragedy.
Oh yeah, we shot that during the pandemic.
Can you tell me about it?
It's Michael Taylor, who is the founder and host of Theater Corner on KPBS. He had an idea to try to make Shakespeare more palatable for kids, and what he wanted to do was do a series of these short films to sort of get kids excited about it. And so this was the first one. He got L. Peter Callender, who is arguably one of the best Shakespearean actors in the country, African-American gentleman, really brought him in to help anchor it and to make sure everybody was on point with the Shakespeare. And it was a lot of fun to do. And even in the midst of COVID, before there were guidelines, we were practicing social distancing. We were practicing if you're on set and you're not speaking, you need to have a mask. You're sanitizing, all that stuff was going on. So it was like right at the beginning, and he had already had his protocol down, and which is very close to what the industry is doing now, other than the testing. It's like now it's like you get tested almost every day.
Well, it's necessary evil, I guess, is
Yes.
the best way to say it.
Yes, exactly. I wish I was being tested right now.
Well, I mean, I don't really have the power, but if you want someone to shove something up your nose, by all means.
Hilarious. Only if there's a check involved.
The best check I can give you is. There's another project on here that caught my eye, The Chronicles of Rick Roll.
So The Chronicles of Rick Roll, an old publicist friend of mine brought me in on it to co-produce and to consult. And when they brought me in, it was like their budget was $67 million. And this is their first film. And I was like, this is not going to happen. I was like, nobody's going to give you $6-7 million for your first film. And so I brought them Rusty to talk to them about their budget and possibly talk to them about being the director of it. The idea of it was fantastic. They were bringing in all of these internet sensations, and the combined hits were like 20 billion or something like that. And they could be interchangeable based on when the film got made, because you can grab somebody else who's more current. And so Rusty told him, look, for your first thing out, you need to be in that 1 to 3 million thing. So you got to refocus, rethink about it. It's like, I think part of it was like, we want to get paid on this thing up front. And it's like, you gotta crawl before you walk. And so that project never happened. And I don't know why it's still on IMDb.
Post-production, I think, is what it was listed as. But the name alone just caught me as, interesting. So that's why I pulled it. It
was really an interesting concept. It's like this kid worked at this place where, like, let's say you wanted to go on a vacation, you couldn't really afford it. You go to this place, and it's sort of like what do they call it? When you get in the water.
Sensory deprivation.
Yeah, sort of like that, except for they send you off into the internet to your dream vacation. So there was a glitch in the program and somebody got stuck. So Rick Roll had to go in and try to find them and bring them back out. So that was basically the concept of the thing.
Man, that sounds good. I want to see that.
Yeah, so did I.
So what project are you working on right now that you're excited about?
Well, I finished a film with PureFlix called Nothing Is Impossible with David A.R. White, and that was a lot of fun. I did a thing called Sprung, and that's streaming somewhere. It's going to be streaming somewhere. I have no idea where.
I'm going to guess Tubi, because that's where a lot of the older movies seem to be popping up.
Yeah, I don't know. Sprung, I guess, is a new series.
Okay.
So I looked through my emails to see if it was listed somewhere in the emails of where it was going to be, and I have no idea. I'm going to shoot an email out this week probably to see if anybody can tell me where it is. Back in the old days, you could just like rent the video and copy it and then cut your scenes out of it. And now I have no idea how to get my footage. It's like,
well,
might just say we need a new reel. I'm like,
I'm going to tell you, I know a few ways, but I'm not going to talk about them.
Send me an email.
Yeah. So I really am enjoying the conversation. You have been in so many TV shows. You were in Malcolm in the Middle, Evening Shade. I mean, just that runs the gamut. What's the one TV show other than Chuck and Hill Street Blues that you count yourself lucky to have been a part of?
The George Wendt Show.
Yeah.
So it was post Cheers. And George Wendt had a pilot, They shot it, they retooled the pilot, and I ended up on the show. And we shot 13 episodes. And just working with George and Brian Doyle Murray and Pat Finn and Kate Hodge was so much fun. And it was my first series that we actually shot the episodes. I think my first series that I got booked to do was a thing called Sammy's Place with Sammy Davis Jr. And he broke his hip, and that was the end of it. They brought in Tim Reed and changed it from Sammy's Place to Frank's Place. But Tim, his character didn't have a son, so I was out. But they paid me out, so I was happy about that. But the George Wendt Show was probably the most fun I've had on a show, on a TV show, other than Chuck.
I also know that you're a highly devout Christian man. I see your posts on a regular basis now, the scripture with your happy face. Has there ever been a project that either you turned down or were uncomfortable with because it kind of went against your belief structure?
I turned down a cigarette ad after Fear of a Black Hat. And they wanted me to play a rapper. And it was just a flat offer. And it was shot in Germany. And I told my agents, I said, this is selling cigarettes to kids. I said, grown folks aren't listening to rap music. I said, so I want to pass. And so I never did a cigarette ad because of it. But then I was watching Harlem Nights, which is crazy funny. And Della Reese was a pastor. Mm-hmm. And so, she cusses like a sailor in that movie. And one night I watched it, and I went to do an episode of Touched by an Angel. And I get to set, and I'm talking to Della Reese, and I said, Della, let me ask you something. I said, I watched Harlem Nights for the 20th time before I came here. And she said, oh, Lord, they had me cussing like a sailor. I said, I know you're a minister. I said, did you get any pushback from that? And she goes, listen, she says, you're asking me that because you're wondering if you should take your job if it's something that you feel that's not, Christian. She says, let me tell you this. God is not going to open doors for you to something he doesn't want you to do. She says, you have no idea why you are being sent into the lion's den. She says, you may have to go there because somebody needs to see you offset when you're off camera and what you're doing then. Somebody needs to see an example. She says, so take your job, baby. So now I just take my job. I don't care.
That's some solid advice.
Awesome advice.
One more movie I want to touch on, Tales from the Hood.
Yeah.
It's been forever since I've seen it. What was it like being part of that movie?
I think, Rusty Cundiff is one of my best friends, and he, his style of comedy and his mind thinks, in a way that I'm very, although I'm a creative, I'm pretty linear in my thinking. It's like I'm not as mosaic as I would like to be. And Rusty is very out of the box. So whenever I have an idea, I go to Rusty with it and say, hey, what do you think of this? And in fact, we're pitching a show right now, a TV show, and I went to him, and just the development of it is so much better because he's involved. He wrote and directed some of the Dave Chappelle show. When I first read that script of Tales from the Hood, I thought, wow, if you can capture these images, this is going to be epic. And they were having a hard time finding the money, and so Spike Lee said, because it was a trilogy, Spike Lee says, well, I can find you the money. And it was a $6 million budget, but Spike took 3 off the top. So they shot the $6 million film for 3. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff they couldn't do because they couldn't afford to get it. But it still came out great. In fact, he just recently did a sequel to it. I think it was 2019 or 2018, they shot a sequel. So.
Well, I hope you can pass this along. I really like Rusty's writing style, and I really enjoyed his character in Tales from a Black Hat. Or Tales of a Black Hat. So Fear of Black Hat. That's my bad. Wow. Ooh, who's gonna hit me for that? My fans. they're gonna hit they're gonna hit on me for that one. But no, I really enjoyed his writing style, and I loved your character of Tone Deaf in Fear of a Black Hat, because it was just, you understand what he's saying.
So in fact, that character, Jeffrey Lennox, is Barry Shabaka Henley. He's on I Heart Bob Hart Abishola on CBS, and he and I were roommates. I think at the time we were shooting that, or just after that. And he's really the most brilliant actor I've ever worked with. Comedy-wise, drama-wise, he's really fantastic. I met him at the Los Angeles Theater Center. I shaved his head between scenes one night on a show. We were in 2 different shows. And I watched him go back on stage, and he's doing his stuff. And he's doing a scene with the late Madge Sinclair. And she looks at him, and then she does a double take. And it was so funny, because the audience noticed that his head was shaved, and she didn't when he first came out. But from that moment on, he and I became friends. He's close to me like a brother.
Now, you still do a lot of work with stand-ups?
Yeah, I just had 3 shows this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where? Like, go ahead and say where people might be able to see you.
Yeah, I was in San Diego this past weekend, but I don't think I have anything coming up until January, and people could see me. Let's see, I'm at Derby's in Hemet, California, January 14th. I'm at a place called The Hive in I want to say Lakeshore, January the 12th. That's also in California. And then I'm in DC in February, Washington, DC at the Comedy Loft in Washington, DC.
Well, I'd assume you have a website where people could go check out these dates, right?
Yeah, I'll post it. I always post everything, and everything that I post goes to my website.
Let's do interview roulette.
Yes.
And you picked 5 numbers before we got started with this, and the first question that you picked: what is the worst smell you have ever smelt?
Vomit.
Vomit.
Yeah, I was working many years ago at this club in Santa Maria, and this lady on the front row hurls in the middle of my set. And I was like, boy, talk about commentary. But it's like, I don't know what she had eaten, what she drank. The smell of it made me retch. I was So now I'm a sympathetic puker. You puke, I puke.
Well,
I can't be that friend that holds your hair, because now you got vomit on your neck.
what horror fiction character scares you the most?
Wow. I believe it's the last movie that made me jump was with Jamie Lee Curtis. What was that? Was that Halloween?
Halloween Kills.
Yeah, not the last, but before the remake.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, so like in the 80s.
Yeah, okay.
I was on a date, and I did look at my watch and get my arm up and settle for about 2 seconds, and something happened, and I jumped, and my forearm hit the back of her head. And people behind us were laughing, and I was laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing the rest of the movie. It's like throughout the movie, it's like I go, just started cracking up. And needless to say, they did go well.
You know, when you forearm the back of their head, they kind of don't like it.
Yeah, they don't like the forearm on the back of the head.
Although I will say, on the first night my wife and I spent together, I threw her into a cement wall by accident, and she still married me. So
maybe it was the concussion.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, honestly. Are you a superhero movie fan?
Yeah, I like superhero movies.
What's your favorite superhero movie?
I gotta go with Iron Man.
Yeah?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, solid choice.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you pull your own heart out, put something else in there.
Right. Yeah. And to be honest, Robert Downey Jr. is like the perfect Tony Stark.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's hard for me to think that there's going to be somebody else doing it.
There won't be.
Oh, they're not going to do it?
No, there's not going to, they won't be Tony Stark.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, well, you got to remember with comics, they change people out every so often, story arcs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with the way Marvel is doing things right now, opening up the multiverse, anybody could play any role at this point because it's the multiverse.
So I probably need a role. I probably need one of those Marvel roles. Hey, Marvel, if you're listening.
Yeah, hire Mark Christopher Lawrence. I could see him as a superhero.
Yeah.
If you okay, let's go. If you could play a superhero, who would you want to play? Or villain, you know, if that's your thing.
I would love to play a villain. I don't know who in specific. I would want to create a new villain. I think, you know, somebody that hasn't been seen before. Somebody that's like a serial killer kind of guy. You know how they always say they're so quiet and so nice. You know, like Lithgow on Dexter.
Yeah.
You know, first time you see him, he bring this lady's puppy back. Oh, we found him, and next time you see her, she's bleeding out in the tub. Well. You know, somebody that's sinister. You see him, and it's like, oh, he seems like a really nice guy, but there's something odd about it. That's who I want to play.
Time to start writing.
Right.
What song is important to you and you would want to be used to remember you?
Worth. It's a gospel song by I want to say Anthony Hamilton, but that name might be wrong. And it's you thought I was worth saving, so you came change my life. You thought I was worth keeping, and you cleaned me up inside. Thought I was to die for, so you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I can be whole, and I can tell everyone I know that.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Last question for interview roulette. What gives you the creeps?
Spiders.
Yeah, arachnophobia?
It's not so much that I'm afraid of spiders. They're just sneaky. You know, they get in your clothes and they'll crawl in your mouth and in your ears, and you know, just spiders give me the creeps.
That's fair. My wife is the same way. She's gotten better over the years, especially being with me, because like I'm just like a live and let live type policy.
Yeah.
I saw a meme on the internet a while back that was like, what if the change you find in the couch is actually rent or from the spiders trying to pay rent? And I was just like, oh man, I've been killing my tenants. But no, I have a very much live and let live policy with the spiders. I don't mind them. Every so often while I'm sitting here in my studio, one will drop down, and I'll just look at it like, hey, he gets a little too close to the equipment. I just blow him away.
Yeah, they kind of creep out. I was in Australia once, and
oh, that's the worst place to be afraid of spiders.
10 of the most deadly spiders, 10 of the most deadly snakes, sharks. You know, any given thing can kill you there.
Yeah.
You know, but every day you had to shake out your clothes, make sure there's nothing in there. It's like,
I lived in Arizona for a little bit, and we had a horrible black widow infestation. That was the only time that I was creeped out by spiders, is because like they were on our back porch, they were on our front porch of the apartment complex, like, and there was bunches of them, and I'm just like, I don't want to live here anymore.
Yeah, creepy spiders are creepy.
All right, well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with me and go through the interview process with me. Again, you said you've got some comedy dates coming up, and we'll make sure we link to your website, markchristopherlawrence.com.
And all my
And
social media is on the website.
any movie that you're working on that you can give us something about, or?
I have something coming up. I think we're scheduled to probably shoot around March. It's called Lying Together.
Oh
It's
yeah.
an independent film going to be shot up in Denver.
Okay.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.